Um, we believe God is in the business of giving us new opportunities. So it's not just about jobs. And it might mean that for some people in this season, what the new opportunity is for them to move to a new place. And a lot of people have had questions on how to be able to do that. So last week we had the UK Global Self-Sponsor, Global Talent Visa. And today we're going to have Dr. Opeyemi speaking to us about how to do that for US. Um, Thank you, Dr. Pe, for agreeing to do this. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much. But before we start, let me just, give us a sneak peek into who Dr. Opeyemi is. Dr. Opeyemi has become my mentor because I have to have doctor behind my name too. So I'm on her case. Dr. Opeyemi Babajide is a wife, a mom, and a homemaker. She's a distinguished public health professional with over 12 years of experience spanning the private sector, academia, and consulting. She's driven by passion for advancing health equity and addressing complex health challenges by transforming data into actionable insights that inform policy and drive impactful solutions. As an expert in research, data analysis, and reporting, Dr. Babajide has designed, implemented, and interpreted research studies that address critical public health issues, utilizing advanced tools such as SPSS, SAS, and STATA, and she has guided data-driven decision-making that leads to meaningful outcomes. Our work extends to managing complex projects from inception to completion, fostering strategic relationships with key stakeholders, and delivering corporate social responsibility initiatives focused on girl education, sexual and reproductive health rights, and maternal child health. Recognized as a corporate culture ambassador, Dr. Babajide has championed diversity, equity, and inclusion in the workplace, fostering a collaborative environment where innovation and inclusivity thrive. Her leadership shines in her ability to engage and unite diverse audiences. She has curated engagement events that brought together over 50 communities and 20 government agencies, while also organizing internal corporate events that strengthen bonds across all levels of staff. She's a skilled strategist. She has monitored and interpreted local, state, and federal policies to develop strategies that align with operational goals and drive social impact. Our work in stakeholder engagement spans the government, profit, and non-profit sectors, where she has successfully built and managed relationships that amplify public health initiatives. With a commitment to advancing health equity, Dr. Babajide remains dedicated to creating meaningful change. Our work in regional corporate social responsibility projects and policy navigation exemplifies our ability to merge expertise with passion, leading initiatives that leave lasting impacts on communities. Dr. Babajide is always open to collaboration and is passionate about driving solutions that foster healthier, more equitable societies. With Jesus' joy in our hearts, please do me the honor to welcome Dr. Babajide, Opeyemi Babajide.
Yay, that's me. Thank you very much, Hade. This is the second time in 2 weeks that people will hijack me literally. It was first Adebola and then you, people that I can't say no to. But I'm super excited to be doing this because I posted this on my WhatsApp, and I do see that people actually really want to hear about this. Like you said, I feel like sometimes it's the information that we do not have on the next move. It's the information that we do not have, that we do not see what the opportunities are on the next move, you know. So when you have opportunity information, it helps you to open up your mind as wide as possible to what's out there. And then if you are somebody of faith and you're praying about it, then you have things to take to God, you know, and all that. I'll be sharing my screen with you all. And Ade, thank you for actually collaborating me to do that bio today. I really did not want to. And because of that bio, I'm going to change um my LinkedIn bio. I was like, oh, you've done a lot of work, actually. All right, so I've titled this Get Grained, a self-petitioning pathway to living and working in the US. And I am so glad that Toby had done something similar for the UK last week. I felt like she laid the foundation so beautifully because most of this global talent, self-petitioning, and then I heard that Poland had just also launched one recently. are usually almost the same mechanism. If you have seen one, you probably have seen them all. What you need to do is actually know the wordings and what the laws are for the specific context that you want to apply to. So I feel like Toby coming last week had actually set a standard or set a background for us. So some of us that are here. For some of us that were not here, I will try as much as possible to also go into some of the background so that you can know where to start from and how to proceed. Um, so as an overview, I'll be talking about the U.S. Citizen Immigration Services offer on employment-based visa. So there are on this employment-based visa, there are five of them. I put three here so that you can just have an idea. The first one is the first preference, which is the EB1. It's for priority workers, outstanding professors, researchers, aliens with extraordinary abilities. I want you to keep your mind open because you'll be so surprised that you qualify for this so easily and sometimes even so cheaply. So there might be a lot of wordings around here, but because I have done this over and over again, and I've gone to their website to see how they have updated things over the years, because they are also now trying to make people come into the system. They keep putting in clarifications as to, oh, we said outstanding professors here, but if you can show us this and this and this, we will be satisfied. We said multinational managers here, but if you are able to show this and this and this, will be satisfied. And I will dive into that as we go further. For the second preference, it's called the EB2. So you have aliens. So aliens are like immigrants, right, with advanced degree, and their advanced degree actually starts with an equivalent of a bachelor's degree. So if you have a BSc, that's your first qualification right there. And if you're not educated, but you are in sports, you are in arts, culture, and you're an exception, you're a person with exceptional ability, if you can prove that, we'll still show that later. And then you can then include a request for national interest waiver, which is what waives you getting a job first or getting an employment first to apply for this green card mechanism. And the third one is for skills worker and professional. This one's a lot of hospitals and caregiving settings now do this for their nurses, but you have to have the skill, get the job, and then they'll file it for you. So out of those three, remember I said it's 5 EB4, EB5. Out of all this employment base, it's only EB1 and EB2 that I'll be focusing on today because these are the ones that you actually can petition for. Not that you cannot do the EB3 if you were a nurse or healthcare worker, but I'm talking about people that does not have to have any employment. So let us look at this as the equivalent of, and I think this is coming up next week or next year, as the equivalent of what Toby had shared on UK talent visa, that you don't need a job offer for and or if you are, and like Ade was saying last week, there are several ways to go into the UK. It says my internet is not stable. Please, Ade, it's breaking. Let me know.
Yes,
Like
was
I,
waiting for a moment, but it's good now.
all right, thank you. Um, So, like Ade was saying last week, there are several ways, for instance, to go into the UK. You could go into the UK as a student, but after that, then you have to look for an employer who would petition you. Um, and after, well, file for you. And after that, what else? If they don't file for you, etc. So this visa categories are usually very, very good because you do not need a job offer. Like you can file for yourself, enter into the system, begin to apply for jobs, and then, because you will have the rights of a permanent resident, there are no barrier. For instance, if you got a job, they usually would ask you to say that at any point in time, do you need us to file for you? And most times, those questionnaires usually serve as what's it called now? Um, a caveat, because once you say I need to be filed, and somebody says that I don't need to be filed for, they probably would go for that person compared to how they will go for you. So this is it's merit based. You need no job offer at all. So I like to dive into the EB1 properly, and we'll be looking at the eligibility criteria. Every of the resources I brought directly from the USCIS because I felt like the success of all of these petitions actually hinged on getting information directly from the source. I do know that there are a lot of lawyers professional service providers that have made this a business, and they um and rightfully so, because it's a very tedious, but it's not an impossible process. I felt like sometimes if you go to read on their website, which you might get to do if you're just Googling randomly, is that you get a lot of confusing things because people have now brought their pecs. For instance, I know a lawyer that who she actually does for is for public health professionals. And there are some lawyers that actually like to do for clinicians, doctors, resident doctors, because they already have a template for that, so it's easier for them to check you out and see that you qualify for their cookie cutter, what's it called, templates, bring you into it easily. It's good for their payment line, for their pay line. It's no longer something that they have to work hard or too hard on. So I pulled this directly from the USCIS website. So you may be eligible for an employment-based EB1 if you're a person of extraordinary ability, and they have described this to be a person that demonstrates extraordinary ability in science, arts, education, business, athletics through sustained national or international acclaimed. Again, if you were here, that was why I'm referring to what Toby did last week. So national and international acclaimed are usually things that you can prove through being in the media. That's actually the easiest way to prove that you have something like that, or letters from international organizations that have reached out to you based on your extraordinary ability. We will dive into that when we start looking at the criteria one by one. Um, the next one is that you must meet at least 3 of the 10 criteria, which I'm going to now, which can be getting Oscar, Olympic medals, and everything. Again, this was back in the day when this was drafted. This year, they have brought out 2 amendments to this to even say that if you were working in an office and your team actually got an award, please hold on. Ife? Okay. Now your team, sorry about that. And your team got an award, you would actually qualify, you know, let me see. Okay. That if your team got an award, not only an Oscar or Olympic, that it will actually qualify you for this kind of one-time achievement. So, these are the 10 criteria, and out of this criteria is where you have to like satisfy 3 of them. And I will tell you I will read everything out. I will cite examples as to what can or what are acceptable, and I will tell you some of the 3 or 4 that I have seen that people can actually easily claim that they have, and usually flies very smoothly and very easily. So for the very first one here, it says evidence of a receipt of lesser national or international recognized prize or award of excellence. This could be any award of excellence at all in your field. And like I said, it could be something that your team actually got, not necessarily you. That's an amendment that you just put today. But let me talk about this in the context of what they initially had. So initially it was the fact that if you had any form of awards, or you were recognized as the best so and so in one in for instance, if you were in Nollywood, for instance, and you got like the best actor, the best artist, that is one way of actually demonstrating an extraordinary ability. If I don't know if Winifred is on the call, she has sent me a message. If, for instance, there's a perfumery kind of thing, and somebody gave me like the most innovative fragrance in the year 2025, that counts as in, and I think that one of the other things that happens here is that some of those actually, because sometimes we are majorly Africans, we are not actually taught to actually blow our own trumpets. Some of these things actually, when they happen, in my job, when I was working, I realized that that's one of the things that we're heavily paid for, to actually get media coverage on every single thing that the company does, so that the CSR is not just like quiet within the company, but it's also like well known in the nation. Like yeah, I just saw this comment. What if I get best employee of the year in the global? Yes, we'll get to that. You'll see how I'm going to build the story, okay? Because that will count. Anyway, so if you, for instance, got an award that was that is like relatively very good, and there was no media coverage. You can actually get a media coverage for yourself, or probably also look for friends that have all this magazine, get interviewed, talk about it, make a big deal out of what you do, because it's actually, you know how it is in America that somebody publishes a book and next week they're like the New York bestseller, right? Okay, we're going to talk about that a little bit more further. Let me keep going. The next one is evidence of your membership in association in your field, which demands outstanding achievement of their members. One of the things that actually comes to mind in this one is people that are called to bar, doctors, architects, because if you are not a qualified professional in those fields, you can't join the necessary association. I do know that in Nigeria, it's almost like a saying that once you graduate, you move into those associations. But there are some of those associations that are very, very prestigious. Like in the US, I know that the IEEE is very, very prestigious for engineers. So if you are building a case in this regard, that's something that you should think of. Suddenly, right now, I mean, one of the things I would have asked you to do is, as we are going through this, for number one, for instance, what readily comes to your mind? If you can write it out, what readily comes to your mind? For number two, about the associations, what also readily comes to your mind right now? The next one is the evidence of published materials about you in professional or major trade publications or other major media. So about this, what I usually would do is I just go on Google and just put my name in there. And everything that comes up with my name is my evidence. I do that a lot. It's only recently that I've not had anything that has to do with me on Google. In 2020, 2021, because I got this fellowship in the US, it was all, if you Google my name, it will come out with the Rockefeller Foundation and Boston University. So when I was building my own case, I printed all of those pages out because it's a big deal, that you have all this major media recognition or major blogs and everything. Another thing for this is also if my work was published, because I'm a researcher, it's also if I publish articles, articles that I work on. Another one is folks that go on interviews on TV, Channels TV, Arise TV call you to come and talk on something, a subject area, parenting, working out, eating healthy. Those things actually count. You just need to put those evidences together. Another one is that do you have evidence? Okay, do you have evidence of judging other people's work? Now, again, because I am a researcher, and this is also have you ever review articles for a publishing for a journal, so we actually usually will have peer reviews before any article is published. So if you have been able to provide the services, it counts. You just have to print out those things as evidences. I see people go for a lot of marketing, what do you call those things, when you're pitching and everything. If you have been invited to be on the panel to judge other people's work in your field, it counts as something. Even if you were called to judge, maybe you are into tech entrepreneur and you were called to come and judge the work of college, no, not even college, high school kids in Nigeria, it counts. And again, next time when you are getting that opportunity, begin to think in this line to say that it can even hint the organizers to say that, is there a media coverage for this? Or do you like the suggestion of getting a media? Nobody ever says no, but in thinking about building your profile or already have a profile, it counts when you have a media coverage. In this regard, you would have been fulfilling two of the criteria, which would be a published material about you in the media, and at the same time judging the work of others. The amount of numbers that you have counts, but you just have to have at least one of those instances to prove. And then I'll still talk about that in the point, is to prove that this has been done or you have done it before, blow it up in your petition and you'll be good. Evidence of your original scientific, scholarly, artistic, athletic, or business related contributions of major significance to your field. So for me, it's about publishing my researches, and people now citing it to say that it helps them in their own publication. For other people, it might be the fact that you were the first to discover, again, Winifred comes to mind, the most whatever that has to do with cedar and lavender fragrance, and everybody acknowledges it, like something like that is yours. The most, apart from the fact that in the research field, you would look for some of the people that have cited your works to write you a letter. In other fields, the most important, the most common way to prove this is usually when you have a patent. It's the easiest way. If you have something that belongs to you, you get the patent, the license patent, and you have it as a proof. However, this petition allows for people in your field to actually write you a letter of recommendation stating so. So a letter of recommendation actually counts. It counts as an evidence for this and counts as an evidence to actually support all of the criteria as well. Um, yeah, I've talked about the evidence of scholarship. Yeah, evidence that your work has been displayed at artistic exhibition or showcases. It's no longer the time to waste all of those showcases that you represent um, your offices in. For instance, when I used to be in Nigeria, I remember that we used to have all this showcasing of WAPCO's work. Because I am in the corporate affairs, if I led some of those things, and I am able to get my boss to actually write me a letter saying that I led the team to showcase some of our social impact work and everything, it will count towards this very criteria. Let me think about another thing. Let us, because we all heard Toby's story last week. For instance, if Toby actually wrote a book, reviewed a book, forwarded a book, and the book was actually displayed in a blue book reading event, and it was properly covered, and she has proofs of that, and she has what's it called? Evidences to show this counts for this particular body of knowledge, body of proof. You can have this. All right. The next one is that evidence of your performance in a leading or critical role in distinguished organization. It only means that you are in this organization, and I don't think anybody here does not have a leading or a critical role in their organizations. If we're not critical, we will not be hired. I mean, even if you were a cleaner, but but you get the drift. The fact that you are doing something, you need to know how important it is and how to blow it up in this kind of context if you wanted to write a petition. I have seen somebody actually blow up their critical role as I think she was an emergency ward nurse, and that was what she used in blowing up her role to say that people will die. She's the the first point of call, and people will just pass on without how much she does her work and all that and all that. So, these are actually things to actually think of to say that, okay, my role. I have a client right now who is a manager in the healthcare system. Although she's a medical doctor, she's not working in the medical doctor. What she does is actually to manage the wellness center of the hospital, which she designed, So that is like a critical role because not only is she like helping people to get screened for preventable, non-communicable disease, she's actually also bringing a lot of what's it called? Um, um, profit into the organization. So she was able to actually get a letter from two of her bosses at work saying that, oh, what she does is very important. She is the one driving this. If she didn't do this, we wouldn't be making a lot of money. She also claimed that she did what's it called? Bespoke wellness prevention wellness checkup for companies and well-to-do individuals, etc. So these are things that actually count as performance of a leading role in a distinguished organization. Now, for this particular criteria, you actually have to prove two things: that you are in a leading role, and then the next thing would be to say that my organization is distinguished. So you are going to be saying that I am this, I am the legend in this, I'm doing this. After me, it's me. I am next to me is agege bread and really nice butter. However, also the company XYZ that I work in is the best in this, best in that, best in this. So if I was doing something for a client, for instance, what I usually would do is actually to talk about their organization first. And then I talk about because when you justify their organization, then you say, out of all this huge thing that this particular organization is doing, Mr. XYZ actually carry out this role, which is pivotal to the success of everything that the organization is doing. So it's usually very, very easy to prove. And it is one of my favorite and easiest criteria to actually claim. Evidence that you command a high salary or other significant high remuneration in relation to others in the field. The most ridiculous I have heard about this recently is a bank teller from Nigeria, and you know how much a bank teller earned. Imagine it, was able to prove that they earn the highest among other bank tellers in Nigeria. That is the simplest way I can put it, so that you would know that you you are well qualified to prove this piece, this portion. I just like to bring your evidences to say that, oh, these are the remuneration. So it doesn't have to be like millions of naira. If you were earning millions because of the stage that you are in, then all the more better. But it doesn't it just means that in your field, in relation to others, which means that if somebody was a carpenter and they are somebody of a carpenter of extraordinary ability, and others are actually charging about $10 for their table, and this person is able to charge $100 for the same table, and everybody is looking forward to buying from them, they are already commanding high salary or significant high remuneration in relation to others in their field. Simple. Yeah. Evidence of your commercial successes in performing arts. So this is for people that are actors, actresses, what's it called? Anybody in the creatives, painting and all that. You have commercial success. You've sold a piece. Even if you have sold only just one piece, or your movie got the Dropbox, what's it called now? Dropbox office, what's it called? Remuneration. It counts. That's a success in the performing arts. And once you have that evidence, you are good to go. Like I said earlier, I have 3 or 4 favorite ones to actually that I usually go for in this particular category, and it's usually, as you can tell, evidence of leading leading or evidence of your performance of leading or criteria role in distinguished organization, evidence that you command a high salary, evidence of authorship, evidence of original scientific scholarly things in media. Those are things that I actually feel that are very, very easy to prove. You just need to like sit down, think about the story that you want to tell about yourself, and then go forward building up the evidences for this. And I'm still going to talk about this because there's a 3-pronged approach that actually governs how all of this is structured. I hope I'm not too fast. If I'm too fast, please just let me know, or bring in your question into the chat, because I'm checking the chat every now and then. So before I go to the EB2, let me just check the chat to see if we Agege Re- yes, for you, it's Agege Reno. Since you say Nigeria. Okay, we don't have anything. Okay, fantastic. What if a salesperson I single-handedly contributed? So for this particular thing, for what Ade has just written, what if as a salesperson I single-handedly contributed 48% to the annual revenue? That is going to prove that you are leading a critical role in a distinguished organization. Now, so you are leading a critical role. The other burden of proof that has to be is that you're not leading a critical. In my workplace in the past, they used to make a joke that Pomu oil, for instance, because they used to like have this competition, like, oh, Wako is really higher, and then if you go to Pomu, they're like, no, that you are actually doing this in a company that you can actually prove that they are very, very distinguished. So this will prove that, and hopefully with this revenue that you bring in, your salary is being increased steadily, and then enables you to prove the next one. So that's 2 criteria now. Enable you to prove the next one, saying that not only am I leading this critical role in a distinguished organization, I am also well remunerated compared to others in the field because of my extraordinary ability. I hope that clears it out, Ade. All right. The EB2 is the next category. It's like so for it's like I don't want to say it's lesser, but it's usually easier to prove than the EB1. So for this, all you need to do is, first category is to have an advanced degree. And once you have an advanced degree, saying that you have an equivalent to the biolaccolate in the US, which is bachelor's degree, and 5 years of progressive post-bachelor's work experience, meaning that the moment you left school as a Nigerian, you went on NYSC. After you went on NYSC, you actually got a job and you have worked consistently with your certificate for 5 years. You have satisfied the first criterion to actually be able to apply for this preference category. All right. And the next one to it is that, okay, you are not you remember in EB1, you are not an outstanding professor. In this case, you are not with education. Next to the outstanding professor in EB1 is extraordinary ability. That is what it's called. But for the EB2, if you don't have the degree, the next to it will be exceptional ability, meaning that you can show. So it's very similar to extraordinary ability, but it's just that the expectations are lower, you know. For this EB2, I think that the major difference between EB1 and EB2 is that for EB2, you just need to prove that you are able to perform your proposed endeavor. For EB1, you have to have been doing it. So you are a person of extraordinary ability already. For EB2, you are a person of exceptional ability, and all you want to prove, all you want to ask the US is that it would benefit the US economy, economy, or culture and arts to waive the employment expectations for you because you are well positioned to do so and so. So this is like a proposal. Like I'm proposing to do this, but these are the initial criteria that you need to fulfill. So the first one, once you have the advanced degree in the first one, it is done. No other thing. But if you are not with the degree and you want to go on the exceptional ability, then the next thing will be to have your official records showing that you have a degree, any three out of this. So a diploma will count, a certificate will count, anything that you actually just went around to school in the area that you want to prove that you have exceptional ability. So you have to have letters from your current employers, documented that you have at least 10 years. You remember, this is for people without the advanced degree. For the advanced degree, it's for 5 years. The next one is that you are licensed to practice your your profession. So the first thing that comes to my mind is if you are a mason, what we call bricklaying in Nigeria, you have at least maybe like a technical school diploma. Then you have worked for 10 years. You can get letters from your employers. You are also licensed to practice Association of Bricklayers in Ekpomu, Ibadan, or whatever. Then the next thing would be that evidence that you have commanded the salary or remuneration for services that demonstrates your exceptional abilities. So this is another thing that you are doing pro bono. I've been doing this for 10 years. I have commanded salary. So it's not going to be extraordinary salary like the other one. It's just that you have been paid for it. Because what they are trying to get is that you can actually come into the US and continue the same job and make a living for yourself without being a burden to the system. The next thing is that you're a member of a professional association, like I said, Association of Bricklayers. You have received recognition for laying the most blocks, like the fastest blocks and everything. Again, don't forget that this is for exceptional ability. If you have a degree, it's a different thing entirely that I'm going to come to. Um, so for this particular piece, I want to state that I have seen several of my friends who are not researchers, who don't have PM, because the other one for the advanced degree, a lot of PhDs and masters folks actually apply for them. But I've actually seen people claim exceptional ability working because that's what they could use in claiming the three prong, which I'm going to move to. Okay. So I will use that to I will use my experience to differentiate in what I am about to talk about, and then I will move to the three prongs. So I think it was in 2012, a friend of mine had called me from the US and they had said, oh, okay, I think that you should apply for this and all that. Basically, my sister had been in the US for a very long time and she didn't know. And because of that, she actually did the PR in Canada and left for Canada, just took her family and went to Canada. And now she's a Canadian citizen. Anyways, so they said, oh, okay, you could apply for this. Even us that we are in the US, we don't have this profile. I think you could do it. I mean, that was all the gassing I need to have. And I started studying about it. The next thing is that they said, oh, you can actually write it yourself. You don't need a lawyer. And I'm like, oh, really? I wrote that thing. I wrote about 24 pages in a night, one night in my house in Ibadan. They sent me their samples. So I'm just trying to tell you that it's actually very, very easy. They sent me their samples, how they wrote theirs. And I think that what guided how this is done is the three-pronged approach. And I will tell you how that worked for me. So the three-pronged approach of actually writing the EB2, and it also counts for the EB1, is that regardless of all the stories that you are telling, this is what will guide those stories. That you are a member of the profession holding an advanced degree. So we have already proven that you have a bachelor's and above, you are good. Now, my proposed endeavor has both merit and national importance. Remember that in the EB1, it's not a proposed endeavor. It's the fact that you're already nationally and internationally acclaimed. So at the time when I started writing mine, I had already doing stuff that had international recognition and everything, but I didn't know about the EB1. I mean, the EB1 was far-fetched from my mind in that sense. So I started writing it, but I then got this offer and I was told that I should better not submit it yet because it will defeat the purpose and I would have shown interest in wanting to stay in the US and then I won't be able to get a visa. So I delayed. By the time I came in, that was when I had to like use the lawyer to write my first petition. And so I figured that, okay, because I didn't have time. But like I said, these are things that you actually can write by yourself because all the lawyer does is to tell you to write it and they put it together. So I did all the work myself, but they just put it together for me. So the first thing is that I was saying that this is my proposed endeavor in the US. For me, my proposed endeavor was I was going to continue my research in things I was already doing before, which is, and I justified mine based on knowledge, education, skills, and projects that I've done before. So I said, this is me. I have a PhD in this, and I have done this and this and this in the past. And my proposed endeavor in the US is that I want to continue my research in this and this that I've done in the past. So it will be beneficial for the US to actually waive the job requirement for me. And I will break it down. So what happened is that for you to say this is my proposed endeavor, so my proposed endeavor, I said it's to actually get more data on social determinants of health. So the next thing was to say that how does that have substantial merit and national importance? Then I went to look for all the WHO data to say that this is very important. Maternal mortality is very high in the US. It's not only in low-income countries. These are the statistics. Is a big problem. Social determinants of health is causing health equity. It's such a huge problem and all that. And the CDC. So I went on that's on the international level. On the national level, I said the CDC also has data on this. The American Association of Public Health also has data on this. That is for public health. Let me use another of my clients that I'm working on. She is a master's student she finished a master's of arts in German language. And my argument for her is that she's going to use her German language to actually build. She now works in a school, in an international school, teaching high school, middle school, and elementary school students. So I am arguing for that because she doesn't have any form of research. I'm arguing for that she's going to actually bring a German knowledge and understanding of culture into that international school to actually have cultural responsive teaching curriculum. And then this is why it is important in the US. This is why it is important all over the world. And because I have a master's in German language, I am able to I'm well positioned and I'm able to actually propose this, advance this, my proposed endeavor, as it is beneficial for the US to waive this for me. Another person that I know is claiming that I'm a preventive and medical person. I do wellness. Maybe you help people to eat healthy and everything. She's saying that I've done this, I've done that. I work in so and so clinic in Lagos, and this is my proposed endeavor. Why is it important? Cardiovascular diseases, diabetes is so high all over the world. It can be prevented. I am well positioned. I've done it in this and this and this and that before. She used the letter, all the evidences that we spoke about in the first place. So it is beneficial for the US to actually waive this for me. If anybody wants to use their story in the chat, just like write a little bit of your story, and I'm going to like draft a narrative very quickly so that we can use an on-the-spot example. So I feel like this is very important because this is where, in the second piece of I'm well positioned to advance my proposed endeavor, is where the burden of proof is. Because you being well positioned is actually the fact that you have the education, you have the knowledge, you have the skill, and you have the experiences, and then you have to blow that up. These are the things I have done. These are the things I have done. For the proposed, for the substantial merit and national importance, it's usually very easy because there are things on the internet. For that teacher, what I did was to go to the US Department of Education and look at their curriculum, culturally sensitive curriculum, and I found all their policies on it and I brought it out because all the visa officer wants to see is that this is important to the US. So if you can bring one of the homeland departments saying that this is important to them, you have been able to prove that. Like it's really cookie cutter. Once they see that it's already in their policy, it's like a mark. It's like A is required, and then you go, did I see A? Yes, I saw A, and they will tick that off. It's usually very easy. I think where the burden of proof is usually the fact that we need to like blow our own trumpets to say that I am well positioned to advance this proposed endeavor, and this counts for both the EB1 and the EB2. Only that in the EB1, the narrative will be that I have already done this, I have done this, and people are already saying this about me, and that has to be like full stop. You can't say I'm proposing in EB1. But for EB2, it will be that I am actually proposing this and this and that, and it will be beneficial for the US to waive the job requirement for me. And that will bring me to the conclusion of my story. So I had written the EB2 and then it was approved in like 2.5 months, but it was backlogged in the fact that you can, so there are two steps. Your petition is approved and then you can now adjust your status to have a green card. So that took a while. And then I decided to change my story to an EB1 because I already have it. And don't forget, I was already building my profile in such a way that I can now say that, see, I'm internationally and nationally acclaimed. This is my story. I'm already doing it. And then I switched to an EB1. And the rest they say is history. In conclusion, I think what I want to say is that the self-petitioning is a very powerful tool for achieving permanent residency based on merit or your need. And the truth is that once you get it, the adjustment of status is for you and for all your family. And it's very easy to stand out. You just need to like be able to tell your stories. And I begin to appreciate that that is something that we are not taught to do, to tell our own stories and like blow our own achievements, in such a way that the world can hear it. And that is very, very important. It also encourages the individual to seek their to explore their eligibility and seek guidance. This is all the USIS asks, that always try to get, am I eligible? Look at the criteria. Is it for me? So that leads me to, where do I start? From here, I think I should speak to a lawyer. I spoke to a lawyer when I was in Nigeria, and then they told me I was eligible. If I was supposed to do it again this year, will I speak to a lawyer? No, it costs a lot. I'd rather speak to a professional service person or someone who have successfully self-petitioned theirs, and they have ideas of how this works. Like I told you, once you go to the web, actually, the only difficult part of this is actually going into the website for the very first time and trying to understand all the nomenclatures, all the nomenclatures. Once you get a hang of that, it's easier from there on. The second thing is that get your storyline together, then begin to draft it. Like today, like I said, if you had the ideas of how this is how this fits, this is how this fits, you can begin to tick it out. And even if you use the criteria for the EB1 to say, I have this, I have this, I have that, but you are not qualified for an EB1, you can use that to tell your story as EB2 because it's very, very similar. The next thing would be that gather your evidences to support your story. Don't be modest. You have to say you are the best. I remember my friend used to say that, you need to write it there that you are the legend. After you, now you. If they try, they should go from Kafancha, they will not find the person, that kind of thing. And you need to really say that. And that's what my letter said, that Dr. Babajide has done this and we are using our work. In fact, I remember that one of the engineers that I know as a friend did it. They said that what he developed in his project, it was in Ife, that is the best in Africa, and people all over Africa are coming to look at it. Point blank. Everybody can argue with their keypad. So the next will be like, fill your forms, then submit your application and get your green card. Okay. I'm so sorry about the boys that are dramatic. There's a movie that they are watching, but that's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take questions. And if anybody had their story that they wanted us to do like a spot on narrative, I'm happy to do that as well. Over to you, Ade. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Babajide. That was so good.
20,
Thank
40
you for the
minutes.
insights. And I think it's actually very similar to US. And I'm also thinking it might be similar to Canada. We are planning to have that of Canada next year. But one thing that really, really amazed me was the fact that even as a teacher, because I remember that I used to be a French teacher before I went into sales. And I'm like, oh, so even teachers can actually use what they know and what they've done to apply for this thing. So we would open it up for Q&A. Does anyone have questions? If you have questions, please raise your hand or mute yourself and ask your questions. Any questions? Okay, let me check the chat. Okay, no questions in the chat. Well, if there are no questions, maybe people are shy to ask questions. Dr. Babajide, do you want people to reach out to you? Are you doing anything to help people in this regard?
Oh, okay. I think I stopped my slides. I actually put my email address there that people can reach out to me. And yes, I actually provide some professional services to help people. First thing first, like know if you even qualify, if this is something that you should be looking at, if you need
Dr.
to
Babajide, I think your network, we missed
wait
some part of what you said.
a few more months. Can you tell me the last thing you heard?
You said you would even help to check if they qualify.
Oh, yes. So I was saying that we can start by checking out your eligibility, and sometimes it's usually that people can go ahead and apply, or people can just wait a few more months to get their profiles together. A lot of people just need a trumpeter to help them blow their trumpet, in very proportional and worthy measures, because sometimes we just don't know how important what we have done is. So I'm happy for everybody to shoot me an email. If this is something that you're interested in, shoot me an email and I'll be able to like hear you out. We can set up a free consultation, talk, and then see how this goes. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So I would also put it in the webinar group. So for those asking for the replay, we're going to share the replay in the webinar group. If you're not part of the webinar group, please do join us. Let me see if I can drop the link. Thank you, Dr. Opeyemi, for this. Before we round up, I just want to check, does anybody have any questions or comments? I think we should have a comment or anything we'd like to say to Dr. Opeyemi before we go. So there's been a lot of amazing. Thank you, Dr. Opeyemi. Okay, in the absence of that, I want to say.
Can I say something? Can I say
Yes,
something?
Dr. Austin, please go for it.
Yeah, just to appreciate although I joined late and then listening to her, I think I got some really insights on how to really go about it, and I really appreciate her taking out time to share insights on how she went about it. I mean, it's so rare, to really come out to say something that really benefit other people that they can ride on to be able to actualize what they want to. Thank you so much, Dr. Opeyemi.
Thank you very much, Dr. Austin. That's very helpful. I mean, I think that it's the same across board. I remember Toby saying last week that one of the challenging things was actually people ordering information about this. And I was very surprised that as it is with the UK, it's the same thing with the US. Like people have some of this information and they don't share it. Like I like to say, one more approval does not disapprove the previous approval. So I'm happy to share my resources and my experience in this regard with everybody as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Opeyemi. Thank you, Dr. Austin, for appreciating Dr. Opeyemi. I think PU wants to
And
say.
after January 15th, please, I will be charging for anybody who wants to see Opeyemi. So please get in your entries quickly. I'm going to become a PA. I will be charging.
You came in late. I had already taken that position.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
That's so good. Thank you, Dr. Opeyemi. Thank you, everyone. I think that brings us to the end of today's webinar. Like I said, we would be having webinars from time to time. And I think something that actually stood out to me from all Dr. Opeyemi and Toby had said over last week is we need to know the heart of storytelling. and how to tell your own story. And it's unfortunate that it's something that I didn't learn in school. I don't know if maybe if you went to a private school, I went to a public school, so I didn't learn it. So maybe those who are going to the posh schools these days, maybe they are teaching you how to, tell your story, how to talk about what you do in a very proportionate way without sounding very humbling. So like, I'm very humble. I don't talk about what I'm doing. And that is actually cheating us out of opportunities. And I can also link it back to the Bible that says that you cannot light a lamp and put it under the bushel. So we need to be able to talk about what we do in a very healthy way and, let it attract opportunities to us in the way God would like it to. So that might be something we might also be looking into for our subsequent webinars, because a lot of us do not have that skill. I personally don't have that skill. So it's something I really want to do. Thank you so much, Dr. Opeyemi, for your time. We do appreciate the time you spent with us today. Thank you, everyone, for joining today's webinar. Before we go, please, we want to have a survey. I'm going to pull up the poll. It's usually about 2 to 3 minutes. Kindly help us fill the poll, giving us feedback. We love your feedback because that's the only way we can actually improve. And I went to check Dr. Opeyemi's published. I went to check it on Google. I posted the link and I saw a lot of things on Dr. Opeyemi. So thank you for walking the talk and showing us how to go about these things. Please help fill the survey and then we can call it a day. Thank you, everyone.